Welcome once again to Debating Metal. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Dean, the Dean of Metal, with my co-host, the everlasting Chris Kaye. Today, we have decided that we are going to just hang around the campfire and tell stories. Not really, but we are going to talk about our favorite guitarists.
Guitarists are the foundation of every rock band and can often be what draws you to that band. We've discussed many legendary guitarists on this show, including an episode about the most influential guitarists, but today we're just going to discuss our personal favorites. That doesn't necessarily mean the best, but those we have an affinity for, influenced our taste in music, and stayed in our record players all these years.
So sit back, relax, and let the debate begin. All right, so that was a quickie intro because we're going to get right down to it. So we're not going to talk about, let me say it's not about metal, it's not about rock, it's not about blues, it's not about funk and jazz and all that stuff, but it's all inclusive. Guitarists that, we might like someone in another category that's just an amazing guitar player. And, acknowledgement is the key in this particular case, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea was just to talk about our favorite guitar players because we did talk about the influential ones, like I mentioned. But it's just one of those thoughts that comes to mind. I think it would be something that we could do with the other instruments as well, because my taste isn't necessarily your taste, isn't the taste of the fans either. So like, it's just it's fun to talk about and kind of the spirit of debate, right? So.
Exactly. So before we start, I saw a video over the past few days, and it's from a guitarist that you introduced me to, which is Ola England. And apparently he was and I don't know if this was how recent this was, but apparently he was at a live, well, of course it's live. He was at like a festival type of thing, and he was on early in the morning, I guess you could say, or early in the afternoon. And they went to go start their show. There was like, you hear the countdowns like, tsh, tsh, and they all went to headbang, and there was no power. all you heard was the drums going off, right? And like their guitars, nothing. And they're trying. They did the big, intro power headbang. One big bang with the three guitars or two guitars, whatever it was, and it was there's nothing, just a drummer in the background way in the distance.
Oh, that's great.
It was freaking hilarious. I thought that was so fun, so funny. Anyway, and it was a shame that it happened to Ola, but Ola's a true professional. They got the power wreck on and it started. So,
I mean, I can't think of a lot of people that it would be better for it to happen to because, like, he has a good sense of humor. So I think that helps, right?
yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that's fun. I got to see that.
If I find it again, or maybe even look up Ola, you might find it. So anyhow, that brings us to our topic for today: favorite guitarists. This has nothing to do with influential because hot take, I'm not going to mention Kirk Hammett today. But there are going to be a few that you may, or I would say there's one that the general metal audience may have never heard of. And that'll be pretty cool. I hope I can introduce you to someone that I've always respected over the years. I don't always listen to him as much as I should, but sometimes it's one of those that you just kind of have to get into. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and begin with him. So his name is Michael Hedges. He is a new age guitar player. He actually passed away a few years back, actually a long time ago. Now that I look at the date, he passed away in 1997. Holy crap! It's been 28 years. He was born in 1953, passed away in 1997. He is a new age guitar player, um, plays basically acoustic guitar, and very very what's the word? Kind of I don't want to say aerial, although my favorite album from him is an album called Aerial Boundaries, but it has a lot of aura to it, and aura is even a bad word too. There's something, it's just like this music that you hear in the background, but it's really, really good. And when you start noticing the guitar playing, it's like really out there. Even some of the instruments that he's played, um, they're not your normal 6 string guitars or 6 string acoustics or anything like that. He's played some, he's played sitars and very influenced by the what's the word? Asian, Indian, Middle Eastern sounds and things like that. He's really, really cool. So for me, I got turned on to him when I used to work at the record store and I was in the video department. We put in his video of one of his, I wouldn't even call it a concert. It was it was like a performance that was recorded in some sort of Studio A kind of environment where it was just him and lights and stuff like that. Cause it's literally most times just him, or him and a bass player. And the bass player that he would have with him for many of his first few albums was Michael Manring, which is also a very famous new age bassist. So he ended up passing away. I think he lived out in California, and he was on the Pacific Coast Highway, got into an accident, and I think he was missing for like 2 weeks before they found him. He had basically driven off the side of the road, and I think down an embankment and stuff like that, and he passed away. So it was pretty scary kind of thing that he just passed away. No one found him for a while,
Man,
so it was
that's a
pretty
bummer.
sad. I want to verify that story, so I want to make sure that that's true. But I'm pretty positive because I remember reading it. Um,
So what I'm reading here says that he was driving home from San Francisco International Airport after a
mhm.
visit to a girlfriend in Long Island, New York. His car accidentally skidded off a rain-slicked S-curve, about a 120-foot drop.
Yeah,
And
wow.
so that's 37 meters. Um,
So it wasn't 2 weeks; it was a few days.
yeah, his body was discovered a few days after. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty awful.
Yeah, no, it's terrible. But he had some amazing guitar work, and essentially, if you go out there and it's in the new age section. Well, I'm telling you, like there's still record stores out there, or CD stores. If you go online to Amazon or something like that, or Spotify, just type in Michael Hedges, kind of traditional spelling, and you'll find his work. It's really, really outstanding stuff. It's very, man, what's the word I'm trying to use? Um, when it comes to something that sounds here it is, it's very
Sure.
atmospheric. That's the word I was trying to look for. So there you go. That's my first guy to for my favorite guitarists.
Oh, I don't have much to add as I'm not very familiar. My familiarity is literally now. Um, so I've never heard the name before. Interesting. I'll have to check out some of the music. I was kind of listening as you were talking, and I mean, yeah, atmospheric is a good way to put it. Yeah, it's just not really something I ever listened to. My mom kind of was into new age music, like she liked what's the Kenny G and stuff like that, where it's a lot of musicians that have major amount of talent, but just more soft kind of sounding stuff that I just never got into when I was young. So interesting. Um, let's see, who do I want to talk about first? Um, I'm gonna get this one out of the way, I think. So, I think I've talked about In Flames many times, um, because they were such a big band in my early years. So I'm gonna talk about Jesper Stromblad. He's by no means like one of the greatest guitarists of all times. However, his songwriting and style of playing, I think, just really resonate with me. The first time I heard In Flames was in the late '90s with either Colony or Horacle, because I bought those two albums right around the same time, and I really don't know which one I listened to first. But then, I bought Jester Race after that, and I was really kind of obsessed with the band, really culminating in Clayman. That period of time, those four albums, I think, just really stayed in my CD player for years. I've mentioned Clayman many times as one of my favorite albums. And Jesper was the main songwriter. He was the main songwriter, during that period of time, really until he left the band in 2010. And that's really where I dropped off. Like, even though the stuff from 2000 to 2010, I wasn't as big of a fan of, I still liked the songs. It was just a lot of the vocals that I was kind of dropping off of. The recording quality of Reroute to Remain, I thought was kind of bad, but like, I still stuck with the band. I still bought their DVD that came out during that time. That was one that actually had Fucking Hostile from Pantera on it, their cover right after Dimebag died. And it's just like there was this vibe too, like being a fan of In Flames, like at the age that I was at. They were Star Wars fans, and Jesper was like the biggest. Like he would always like sign off every post or whatever he put online that said like "May the Force be with you." So I could relate to that kind of stuff. And he had just had this nonchalant attitude about, like, he would write a song and be like, I'm not gonna play the solo. I wrote it, but like I don't feel like playing it. So like being a teenager at the time, you're like, yeah, that's the attitude that I had. He had another project called Dimension Zero, which I really liked. I had all their albums as well, and it was just like after around that time, like when he left In Flames, like I got into kind of some other music, because when he left, it just like his songwriting was gone. And I didn't even realize how much of the influence like he had on my interest in that band until he was gone. So, 10 years later, he forms a Halo Effect with like basically all former In Flames members, including the original singer. And it feels like it just picked up right where he left off with In Flames in a lot of ways. So, yeah, I mean, like when I was picking the people I want to talk about, I was like thinking about the amount of time that I, you know, listened to each of these musicians, and just like I spent a lot of time with his music in my CD player.
You know, with as many bands as he's been in, I can understand why.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny because he's been in several bands and he's currently in two. So it's one of those weird things. I believe he's currently in Dimension Zero and he's currently in the Halo Effect. Although he doesn't
Dimension
tour with the Halo
Zero's
Effect,
Dimension
huh?
Zero's doing music.
Yeah, they are still currently active. Um, and
Wow,
and he is the guitar player.
I had
They
no idea.
Yeah, they've been active again since 2013.
So they
Yeah,
but they haven't put out any new music though.
no,
So
not that I know of.
I guess they're just playing live shows and stuff.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
okay.
yeah, they haven't done anything new since 2007, so it's been a
Yeah.
while. But yeah, apparently they're touring they got the touring circuit thing going on over there in Europa.
You like a guitarist when you buy an album with a singer you don't care that much for, because you like their style of playing guitar.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. You just want to hear that you want to hear what he brings to the table.
Hmm.
Because the other guy just broke the end of the table off, because he's a bad singer kind of thing.
Well, it's yeah, it's not even that. Like, so Dimension Zero, I just wasn't into the vocals that much, and like it wasn't that he was bad or anything like that. It just didn't hook me in that way.
Right.
But as far as like the actual music, I really enjoyed. So
Cool. I mean, I've been listening to some of his stuff more recently since I've picked up the Halo Effect, and I listened to it on occasion.
yeah,
So, especially with what's the singer's name in the Halo Effect?
Michael Stana.
Yeah, I mean he's in like 37 bands. He's like what was it? He's like the Ripper, Tim the Ripper Owens of Sweden. He's in like
I mean, he
every
has
band.
what, 3 bands? Yeah, because he does the new one where he's doing clean vocals.
He is currently he's currently in Dark Tranquility, the Halo Effect, Grand Cadaver, and Cemetery Skyline. Cemetery Skyline is the one you're
That's the
talking
one
about.
I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah. That's so funny. Oh man. All right. Well, kudos to Jesper. I like him. I like the stuff. I like his sound. They have a really like you can tell him like between the Halo Effect and In Flames, and it's not even that. It's his songwriting. He's got a
Very distinct songwriting.
very
Like
distinct songwriting style.
even in that one Synergy album he worked on, you can tell it's him.
Yep. So, all right. So my next guitarist that I thoroughly enjoy listening to is Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine, Audio Slave, and pretty much right now, I don't even think Rage is doing much right now. So he's just out somewhere protesting.
And I was going to say, and bitching about politics.
Yeah, Tom Morello has got to be one of the most interesting guitar players that are out there right now. Because he's been obviously on the scene since was it 2000 or something like that, or 2002. It is just very.
What do you mean? I mean, Rage started well before that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant 1992, and I was thinking of the. I started to. I forgot Rage started that early. That
Yeah, I
long
was going
ago.
to say, man, they were around when I was a little kid, man.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it's time is.
You're thinking of Audio Slave.
Well, I know they were there from around 2002, but I wasn't even. I was thinking about Rage, and I just knew that the time that they hit my radar, the year ended with it too. I just wasn't thinking it was 10 years sooner than that. No, but seriously, 1992. That's when they came on my radar, and Tom Morello is such a unique guitar player because he's not just looking for tone in an amp. He is looking for sounds. He is a creator, an innovator. Just what he does on the guitar is absolutely insane in so many cases. The fact that, and I don't know. I mean, he was explaining something the other day that I happened to see a video explaining how he discovered that, if you turn one pickup on and one pickup off, I mean, that's something that I believe guitar players figure out early on. So this may have been a thing where he was talking about something when he was a young guitar player, but he was talking about it when he was writing a song. But then again, when you think about the song he wrote, it was a long time ago. And he's talking about turning the volume off on one pickup and keeping it cranked on the other, and then doing basically sliding up and down the neck with one hand, using the other hand to turn the pickup switch on and off, and creating almost like a scratching effect, like a DJ would have. And it is pretty insane that he's just sitting there going, okay, well, this does this, because I knew Ace Frehley used to do that in the 70s with Kiss. He would mess with his pickup and turn it on and off. That was part of his soloing thing. But the way that Tom did it, making it sound like scratching, it's the same way that Eddie Van Halen used to come up with that elephant sound on his guitar using his whammy bar, because he would just do that, pull it, push it, and he'd have an elephant in the room. So Tom is just crazy experimental and good. I mean, some of my favorite work from him is like Take the Power Back. The guitar solo on that is absolutely uh, great. It's hard to describe it other than that because it's just so many things going on with it. Sleep Now in the Fire is a great example of some of his guitar work. And then when he joined, or I don't want to say joined, when he formed Audio Slave, um, there he took the experimentation that he had created in Rage Against the Machine and kind of added melody to it. It wasn't just a solo. So now he's taking these sounds and stuff and just literally, like, instead of going crazy, he has this nice melodic theme that's going on with the solo for the song that is so different from what he did with Rage, but yet at the same time still very, very creative. So that's my guy, or my next guy.
Yeah, I really like Tom Morello. I didn't have him on my list, but like, yeah, I mean, I've been listening to him since at least I was in high school. So probably around the 2000s. Audio Slave, yeah, like you said, is just a melodic evolution of his playing style. And so, like, you're taking Zach De La Rocha versus Chris Cornell, two very different vocalists. And he still continues to take, or he being Tom Morello, still continues to take his style and fit it in with that singer or vocalist in general very well. And so he's a very dynamic player, like you said, like more focused on creating interesting sounds and than necessarily just music. I mean, sound is music, but you get what I'm saying. Yeah, just really interesting guy to listen to talk about music too. I remember seeing him on different VH1 videos and I think he did. It was either an Eddie Trunk interview or he did debating. No, I mean, it's not debating metal. What is it called? That metal show.
Metal show.
That's our show. He did. Several of those interviews like that, and it was just a lot of fun to listen to him talk about music. So, yeah, pretty good pick. I like that one.
Cool. One thing I will say, if, for those of you who watched Back to the Beginning, the Ozzy's last performance, Tom Morello was the musical director. So he was the guy behind all of the super groups and putting them together and getting people on board and stuff like that and choosing the songs that they chose. So that was kudos to him for that, because he pulled off a really difficult trick and did well with it.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I guess he's got a lot of contacts in the industry because I mean he seems to get along with a lot of different musicians out there from what I can tell. So that would make sense. All right, so my number, well, it's not really a number. I'm just kind of talking arbitrarily about each one. So um I'm going to talk about Adrian Smith next. Uh, a big fan of Iron Maiden. If you probably heard one or two episodes of the show,
Come on. No, you're not.
uh, and it's probably not a coincidence that the Iron Maiden albums that don't have Adrian, with the exception of the first album, are the ones I listen to the least. Um, I think it's his kind of bluesy style of playing that works really well with that band, and he has an aesthetic about the way he plays that I just really kind of prefer over the other two. And I love Dave Murray and I love Yannick. I think they both bring something special to that band as well, especially Dave, in my opinion. But Adrian just kind of is the guy for me when it comes to guitars with Iron Maiden. Um, you know, um, his time with Bruce Dickinson's band, the two albums that he put out, they're the best in my opinion. There's a chemistry between Bruce and Adrian that I think really showed in those two albums, and it also kind of bridged that gap of them coming back into Iron Maiden. And he's he's a really cool dude. Like he's just one of those like chill guys. Like he's a fisherman. if I can sit and watch a fishing video, uh, then you must be entertaining. 'Cause it's not something that I'm interested in. And what I would say too is like what I love his contribution to the band in general. Like I love on some of the live albums, you get to hear him do backup vocals on some of the songs, and like he just has a really interesting voice that I think complements Bruce very well. I liked the Kotzen, or the project he did with Richie Kotzen, Smith Kotzen. I like that first album. I haven't listened to the second one. I don't even know if it's out. But
I believe there's a few singles out. I'm not sure, but
okay.
yeah, it's there's something out.
I like what I'm hearing. I mean, it's different than what I'm used to with him, but I like what I'm hearing. Um, and so like the other thing is like if you listen to his solo from the current era versus the early years. Like I would say his solo on Passchendaele is as good as a solo like on Die With Your Boots On, Like I don't think that he's diminished in quality whatsoever. I think he's really even learned from years and years of experience and brought in even better solos a lot of times. So he's just one of those guys that I really enjoy listening to, his style of playing, and I'm glad I've gotten to see him live a few times.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I've seen Maiden 10, 11 times now, and he's been at all of them except for two. Because I saw one during the Blaze era, and I saw one during the I want to say it was the Fear of Dark tour. I can't remember exactly, and so he wasn't there for that. But I'm a huge Adrian fan. We've talked about him, and we talk about how he oozes cool. So I love Adrian. He's a fantastic guitar player. When I was compiling my list of who to talk about today, he was one of the guitar players that were on my list. But I dropped him off when I narrowed it down to 6 or 7 because there was a couple other guys I just really wanted to talk about that we don't really talk about much. And for anybody who wants to listen to his vocals, he did do one song with Iron Maiden as a B-side during during the Somewhere in Time album. He did a song called Reach Out, which was a single behind, I think it was Stranger in a Strange Land. So that's a pretty cool song. I believe that's an old Urchin song that he converted over to Iron Maiden, but I'm not sure. It may be, I may be off with that. So anyway,
I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
The song is actually a B-side from the Wasted Years single when that came out, and the song is technically what they call a cover of the entire population of Hackney. So that was something that there's a joke of theirs or something like that. So I don't want to get into it. It's a long story, but I do love Adrian. I think he's pretty cool. All right, my next guitar player for me, I'm gonna stick with being a little bit outside the box on this one. In this particular case, I'm going to bring in Stevie Ray Vaughan. We Most everyone in the rock circles and in the heavy metal circles is going to know Stevie Ray Vaughan. The guy was an amazing guitar player. Just the virtuosity and the dexterity that he would show on a regular basis was absolutely insane. Watch his live at Mocambo show, which was in Canada, or watch any live show from him, really, and you will see some crazy ass guitar playing. I mean, just some of the stuff he would do. Like at Mocambo's, he started playing stuff behind his back, which is fine. You know what? People do it. Like it's like a Jimi Hendrix type of thing, playing with his teeth, playing behind his back. But it's not even just that. It's playing it and playing with the speed and the fluidness at which someone playing with the guitar in front of them can play, he's doing the same thing behind his back with his teeth. I mean, it's just or with his teeth.
I
It's
was gonna
crazy.
say, how is he playing behind his back with his teeth?
He's got a loose neck. But I mean, he's just fucking amazing. And the thing that I loved most about him is how he made his guitar sound and what he could do
His
with it.
tone was fantastic.
Yeah, his tone is out of this world. I mean, some of the highlights for me is Texas Flood. That was off his first album. Great song. He incorporated a lot of those pieces from Texas Flood in other songs later on in his career. You could hear it in other solos. Certain songs that he recorded for release had very similar solos, but he can go off the deep end on any of those at any point in time, and that's what he did. But some of the basis of those solos were used in several other places. Another song, I mean, Voodoo Child, the Slight Return, the Jimi Hendrix song, he does just a fantastic job on that song. Saw a video just the other day. He was playing that, I think, in an outdoor venue in Austin, and in the middle of it, his guitar strap broke or his string broke. I can't remember what it was, but he had to switch guitars in the middle of playing, and he did, and that was just insane because he was able to just continue to start. He's diddling away on the neck of the guitar, and the one that's broken or the string that's broken, he's continuing to play, and the other guy brings him the guitar and he switches it out within a flash of a second, and he continues to play. You almost don't hear a break. It's crazy. And then my introduction to Stevie came with his posthumous album The Sky Is Crying, where there's just a bunch of songs that he had recorded that were sitting around, and they put out the two highlights for me where he put out Little Wing, which is a instrumental version of Jimi Hendrix song, but like way longer than Jimmy's, and then The Sky Is Crying. Absolute beautiful version, because there's several versions he's recorded throughout his career. That one, there's just the one at one point where he's can you see, he says, the sky is crying, can you see the tears roll down my nose, or not my nose, was it, can you see the tears, because the last line he says with that, can you see the tears roll down my nose, that's the last line, but I'm trying to think what the line is. Can you see the tears, I guess it's roll down my face, whatever. He hits one note and holds it for the entire I guess it's 4 measures of that beat. It's just great and crazy all at the same time. And it's a person, it's supposed to be like somebody crying. The sky, maybe. It's just incredible. I mean, it's just one of those things where you just like, you hear that and you can feel all sorts of emotions just behind that one note. It's crazy when you think about that. And that just, to me, cemented his legacy in my mind as one of my favorite guitar players.
He's an incredible guitar player. My dad was a big fan, and we used to listen to him all the time in the car. I genuinely think, like, I love Jimi Hendrix's version of Little Wing, but I honestly like Stevie Ray's more. Because it's longer. It's like he took the idea and he put his own soul into it too, and so yeah, the guy was an incredible player. I'm not the biggest blues fan, but I have a lot of respect for it. My dad's a blues player, and it's just like, there's a lot of soul obviously put into it, whereas like a lot of the stuff we listen to is very technical. But blues has its very different place in the world, and I think Stevie Ray was one of those guys that, like, he obviously had some drug problems and other things that were going on, but he died way too young, and in a very tragic way. And It's a freaking shame because I wonder if people are hearing his music now. Like I know it's harder just with the digital age to, find anything new if it's not just, put into, the front page of whatever service you're using. So they're promoting certain artists over others, but like, he's one of those guys that like transcends blues. Like, it's not just blues. Like he played, oh God, what is that song? Scuttle Button.
Oh
It's
yeah.
just, it's so good. Like, go check that out if you've never heard that song. Um, it's just so much fun listening to him. He's one of the few blues guys that's like in my collection.
Yeah, well, that tells you everything you need to know.
Um, I'm going to talk about we kind of mentioned blues, and there's a little bit of blues to this guy and his brother. So I'm including the brother in this too because like we're talking about guitarists. Well, these was a famous guitar duo siblings, right? Angus and Malcolm Young. Um, so I don't talk a tremendous amount of AC/DC on here, but we have done a couple episodes on them. And, you know, I got into AC/DC fairly young. Um, but I think like that big thing for me was like that cemented me being a big fan of them. I think was when I saw them on Saturday Night Live in the early 2000s. They were doing Stiff Upper Lip, and I think like before that, I just liked music and stuff like that, and it was like there's a connect, and I think probably a lot of people had this same feeling maybe when they saw bands on similar shows to Saturday Night Live or on MTV or something like that, where you see them, it becomes more real in a way. And so this was after the Bond era, which I prefer the Bond era. It's something about that the energy of that time. Bond himself, what he brought to that band, and I think the connection that between him and the especially Angus, like there's just something about that energy that I just really enjoy. You can see a lot of that kind of stuff on Family Jewels, which was a DVD release. I don't know if there's a Blu-ray version of it, but I would definitely be interested in that if there is. But it's got a lot of the early recordings and live performances and things like that, and that's really one of the only ways you can see that stuff. But it's interesting, like the riffs that these guys wrote, they're fairly simplistic, but at the same time, there is this energy that just like you feel it when you listen to the music. When Angus is and well, really, uh, both of them, they're kind of rocking back and forth to the music. Like you can't help but do it yourself. It's not even like a visual thing. Like it's just that's the feel of the music. Um, and it's just there's just something about that like when you like AC/DC, the good news is that you pretty much can like every song because they're all so similar. So, um, yeah, I just like when I think about like who the guitarists I love to watch, and I've probably seen just about every live release of AC/DC that is available. Um, I just I just enjoy listening to and watching the brothers, especially. Like I don't know if I could see AC/DC now. I mean, I probably could, but there's just something missing from there. But yeah, for sure. Like I think Angus is on there, and kind of an honorable mention for Malcolm.
ACDC's weird. Like, I didn't include ACDC or Angus Young because I've never ever considered Angus to be the most technically proficient guitar player out
He
there.
is not.
But he's not. But there's something about there is an energy and that they have that they bring. I mean, riff wise, it's it's uncomparable. And when you get to the guitar solos, they're melodic in some cases. In other cases, it's just uh, what's the word I'm trying to come up with? It's uh, in tune noise. and I don't want to put down ACDC because, man, ACDC is one of my favorite bands, but Angus is not one of my favorite guitar players. What's amazing about ACDC is, there's so many metal guitarists that will sit there and say ACDC is a huge influence.
Mm-hmm.
But the funny thing is, it's not Angus, it's Malcolm.
Oh yeah, Malcolm is the driving force of the sound, and he wrote a lot of the. Well, they wrote them together, right?
Right.
But there's something about just the energy that they had together, and they complemented each other so well.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely astonishingly amazing how good those two work together. And they were almost like, the ACDC family is just like a little mafia. You can't get information out of that family. And when I say family, I'm talking about everybody and anybody associated with ACDC. Musicians, techs, roadies, all of them. It's just it's ACDC or nothing, really. So that's pretty special in my eyes. And the fact that the latest album, that came out many, many years after Malcolm's death, has him listed as songwriting, writing all the songs. It tells you how much shit they have in all these riffs that they have laying around. I have a feeling Angus is the main not songwriter, but the main lyricist. I don't think Malcolm did any lyrics per se, but I could be wrong.
I watched an interview with the two of them talking about lyrics, and it was one where they were talking about why they do all the lyrics and everything rather than Brian. Like, basically, I don't know. It's so weird to me when I listen to this because, like, they, at one point they just said we took away the song, the writing from Brian. And I don't know, to me that just seems like so weird in a context of, like, you're in a band with somebody and it's like, oh, we took that away from him. And then, like, I don't know, I'd have an attitude about it if that was the case.
It's like, when you're on a sports team and like say you're the closer for the Astros, right? And then all of a sudden, we're going to you're not going to close for us anymore. Right. But you still remain with the team for the next 25 years, or whatever it is, it's 40 years. It's crazy that they said, oh yeah, we're not going to have you write lyrics anymore. And it adds to that conspiracy theory that Brian had nothing to do with the songwriting on Back in Black. It's too coincidental. It's too weird to sit there and say, oh yeah, Brian had this astonishingly good album that was, I mean, you're talking one of the biggest selling albums of all time of any music genre, probably at number 3 or something like that, worldwide. And the next album, you can say, well, Brian wrote that, and okay. All right. And then it just kept getting worse.
Yeah.
It's like, and then they finally took it away from him. So there's just something there about that whole conspiracy theory about those are Bon Scott's lyrics. But hey, I'm not gonna stoke the fires on that one.
Well, what I failed to mention before too was that I was listening to this interview and I had to read the subtitles because I didn't understand what they were saying half the time.
They are very hard to understand.
And I'm very good. Like, when I say that, I'm not, like, I'm very good at listening to people speak, in accents and other, or that are, English is not their strong suit. And I'm not saying that that's not like, obviously English is the strong suit of their, of the young brothers, but like, I've listened to shows in other languages for years, and then like can decipher what somebody says. It always blows my mind when I'm listening or I'm hearing somebody say something like, "I didn't understand what they said," when it's just a slight accent. We had a former coworker that was like that. So so it's funny to me that somebody that has spoken English their entire life, I'm listening to them, just like, what is this guy saying?
They were very hard to understand. Like, put it this way, I can understand Ozzy better than I can understand Angus. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right. And I think part of Angus's issue is that he's got a cross between the Scottish accent, the English accent, and the Australian accent. I think that's where it all comes from because he's Scottish by birth,
Hmm.
and then they moved to Australia. So, and then of course they spent so much time in England, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Brian is English or he's either that or Welsh, I think, or something like that. So it's just crazy to think about how you're right. It's so hard to understand them. It's so hard. Like, really, you know, I mean,
Hmm.
it's not even like marbles in your mouth. It's just really difficult. Yeah, Brian was born in Dunstan, England, or Dunstan, yeah, it's County Durham. So he's English. The Malcolm brothers are Scottish. And what was Bond? Bond was he was Scottish too. So
Yes.
so yeah, there you go. They're very hard to understand. All right. Up next for me. All right, I've brought in all the tough ones. I'm gonna go to Slash as being one of my favorite guitar players. There's something about that guy. You know how we talk about Adrian and how he oozes cool. Well, obviously Slash does too. I mean, Slash is one of those guys that just everybody knows him by the top hat and the hair. And as soon as he gets on stage and he slaps a guitar on, you know it's him. And he's such a unique talent and a unique uh, entertainer that he's just special. I went to see him play with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators, and there was I forgot, I forgot what song it was. I think it was a Guns N' Roses song that they were doing, and I believe it was Rocket Queen, if I'm not mistaken. And I kid you not, that version of Rocket Queen must have been about 12 minutes long, with about 9 minutes of it being Slash playing a guitar solo. I was like, holy fuck, when is this guy going to stop? I mean, it was good. It was great. But you're like, holy crap, this just fucking song just keeps going on, and he's just out there, and he has that typical stance where he puts one foot up on a ledge and he puts his Les Paul on his thigh, and it's completely vertical, and he is just going to town. And I'm like, holy shit. And mind you, he's about 10 feet in front of me because it was at the House of Blues. And I'm like, my God, this is amazing. And I go, but yeah, there was when he finally did stop, I think everybody let out a collective, oh, like their breath, they were able to breathe because you're watching this guy just go on and on and on. And I'm like, wow. So that he is a very special talent. His highlights can be seen, like he obviously he brought Sweet Child of Mine to Guns N' Roses, and they worked on it. The producer said, hey, you need to do something with that song, and they did, and they brought in a finished version of it, and they recorded it, and obviously we all know what happened. But he also brought
Well, in
Guns N'
in addition to that, I think it wasn't that an exercise, a warm up exercise.
yeah, I believe it was a warm-up exercise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, something that he was just diddling around with, and all of a sudden, his producer's like, "That's you got something there," you know. And then he also brought "Fall to Pieces" to Axl Rose in Guns N' Roses, and Axl turned them down. He said, "No, I don't. I don't like it. It's not good enough, whatever. So he kept it, and Velvet Revolver had their biggest hit with that song, Fall to Pieces. And I listening to it, I can only see Scott being the singer to sing that. I don't know if Axl would have done as good a job as Scott did, singing that song. So
I think it worked out
ended
for
up
the best. Yeah.
exactly. It worked out the way it was supposed to work out. And then, of course, Slash's work with Miles Kennedy is just amazing. And if anybody's noticed, Slash just recently put out a blues album called Orgy of the Damned, I think it is. That is pretty cool itself too. So you might want to check that out.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Slash is just a cool dude. I mean, I remember even seeing him on like Conan O'Brien and stuff like that, and just I think he had a Simpsons appearance, and he's just one of those guys that he's part of the pop culture too. Like he's
Oh
not,
yeah, he's totally pop culture.
yeah, not just a musician, but like his persona is bigger, larger than life, you know. So, I think it's a good choice. I didn't pick him, but you know, I think he is just one of those guys that like he's super talented, um, very good songwriter, very just a fun guy to listen to. Again, talk about music, and glad he's still doing stuff. Like it to me, I always think about Guns N' Roses as kind of a shame because like the amount of talent and ability there that was kind of put on the shelf for a little while because of their inability to work together or just be rational human beings like that. It's just kind of a shame. So I'm glad things for the most part have kind of worked out how they have, where like he worked with Miles Kennedy, he's done his own solo stuff, and then even now I guess he and Duff are touring with Guns N' Roses. Don't know if I could watch that with the way Axl is now, but if you are out there and you find enjoyment from that, like more power to you. So yeah, good choice. Um, I'm going to talk about Glenn Tipton. Glenn Tipton wrote most of my favorite solos from Judas Priest, who is one of my favorite bands. I love KK, and I think that the combination of the two is absolutely fantastic. But that being said, like I've watched a number of compilation videos of like Glenn's best solos, and they're pretty much all my favorite solos from that band. And in a lot of ways, he was the driving force for the band for a long time, including the eras that some people don't enjoy. Like he was a big part of Jugulator. He was a big part of Nostradamus too, and that's because Glenn is a big soundtrack guy. He loves Hans Zimmer and stuff like that. So he kind of carried some of that into Nostradamus, which I get is very kind of controversial. You either like it or you don't. Yeah, but I mean,
Don't.
you just don't get it.
Oh,
So
right.
because it's not a traditional Judas Priest album. It's like it's a soundtrack to something that doesn't exist, right? Like it's a soundtrack to like what's the Kiss one?
The Elder.
The Elder. The Elder, you either like it or you don't,
Dude,
right? Like
I'll listen to the Elder all day long over Nostradamus.
okay,
There are some good hooks on the Elder and some good songs.
there's
Not
good
songs.
hooks on Nostradamus too.
It's
But
a far reach.
okay.
I'm messing with you. Sorry.
But the point is like it's a concept album. It's a soundtrack to something that is not like something you can go out and watch, right? It's just like you have to kind of be along for the ride. And so, when you listen to um you know, Glenn and the way he does things, like you can kind of pick up on like he is that soundtrack kind of guy. Um, he like he was responsible for Jugulator really because the band had gone through a lot of just sitting around and kind of figuring out what they were going to do without Rob. And Glenn had put together, at least he says he's put together several different albums, essentially not like fully fleshed out and recorded or anything, but like he had written music for this time period, and then that time period had passed and they didn't have a singer and they weren't sure what they were going to do. And he put his feelings at the time, which are a little bit darker, on on a record. And for me, it works really well. For a lot of people, I get it. They don't like those eras of the band, but being somebody that like that, who's the driving force, you're kind of following their journey in a lot of ways, which I like. And it's interesting to me, like he's a guy that was influenced by a lot of like blues, like Hendrix and Deep Purple and Zeppelin and the Peter Green era of Fleetwood Mac, and you can kind of feel that in the early years. But like I think Glenn and KK together are responsible for a lot of the evolution in heavy metal. And I just, I really appreciate it. I'm glad he's still, you know, doing some songwriting, and minimal playing because of his Parkinson's disease. But at the same time, I'm glad he's still out there.
Oh, I'm very happy that he's still with us. I love Glenn's playing. It took me a long time. I never really broke it down. Who played what solo in this and that thing. But
Mm.
as I began to think about it, you could see how technically proficient Glenn was when you watch, specifically when you watch um, that live in I think it's Memphis, Tennessee. I think it is.
Okay.
Um, it's a live in concert video that was from the Screaming for Vengeance tour, that was on MTV, and it's part of the Judas Priest box set, Metallology or something like that. That when you watch that concert and you could just see the technical proficiency that he comes and plays with in Judas Priest compared to this wild, unadulterated, like this craziness behind KK's playing. And
Yeah,
it's
they're
not like,
very different. Yeah.
yeah, it's not like KK's this insane guitar player. KK's very good. But KK is just, I think he's more of a, more unfiltered, a little out of control, if you want to put it that way. What's the term that's used for that? Ah, man, I'm having difficulty today on this show coming with some words. A lot of words I haven't thought about in a while. That's probably what it is. Um, anyway, he's just this KK is just really cool in terms of just being someone to come up with something on the cuff, as opposed to Glenn seems like the kind of guy who has to work things out. Very similar to um, Adrian Smith and Dave Murray. Dave Murray is just totally, off the cuff, comes up with a solo, plays it, done. Adrian has to write everything down. It's very, very laid out when it comes to his stuff. And
Yeah,
so
it's a little more meticulous for sure.
yes, definitely more meticulous. So Glenn, I mean, amazing songwriter, probably the biggest part of Judas Priest that we don't know about or we don't see. He's probably the biggest driving force behind the songwriting on that team. So, yes, I love Glenn.
All right, so who you got next?
All right, next for me. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here for me. So I'm gonna put in Jake E. Lee from Ozzy Osbourne
Oh,
and from Badlands. Um, Jake has always been this guitar player for me that is just underrated is a really huge word when it comes to that. Because you're talking about a guy who had to basically step in the shoes of Randy Rhoads, and he was never going to be a Randy Rhoads replica. That's just never going to work, right? So he never thought about it that way, but he was so good and he did his own thing. And I mean, it's just amazing that back to back, Ozzy was able to find two crazy good guitar players. And on top of that, two crazy good songwriters, because you could be a great guitar player, but you can't write a song for shit, you know? And in Jake's case, he's really good at songwriting. And then on top of that, really good at soloing. Um, I mean, the solos on Bark at the Moon. I mean, that's just what a way to start your Ozzy career, right? And then Rock and Roll Rebel, to me, that solo is so cool because it's got this very melodic part to it, but the whole thing, even when it gets into the shred, it's very similar to Mr. Crowley, how it has two parts, but in this particular case, the solo on Rock and Roll Rebel is just one long solo, as opposed to Mr. Crowley and Randy playing two separate solos. That one, the one on Rock and Roll Rebel, is very similar in that it's very melodic, it has its points, and then it goes into the shred. But even the shred in Rock and Roll Rebel is very melodic. It's just crazy. His work on Shot in the Dark with the song Shot in the Dark and Killer of Giants. I mean, he has a touch to his soloing that is so good. And let's not even talk about the stuff that he did with Badlands, because it's just outstanding. Just his the whole thing about the two albums, and there's actually three, but the third album is more like demo work that never really got finished, kind of thing. That's the album Dusk, but Badlands, the first two albums are just outstanding. It's unfortunate that the first album came out in 1989. They were right at the tail end of the glam metal era, and when Voodoo Highway came out, it just got overlooked because everything, it was grunge. It was the thing. So I saw them in concert at a small club, and I'm standing 5 feet away from Jakey Lee, and it's just watching that go on. I was just like, holy shit. Unbelievable.
I really like Jake. It's tough shoes to fill, obviously, after Randy Rhoads. But, at least he didn't have to write anything on that first album he was on. Ozzy had that
Ozzy
covered.
took care of it all. Yeah, it took care of it all.
Yeah, bullshit. But, yeah, no, I mean, we've talked about Ultimate Sin a few times. I love Ultimate Sin. I think it's one of Ozzy's best albums, and Jake obviously is a huge part of that. And he's one of those guys that is perfectly entitled to being bitter because of the way his career has played out. I don't think he really is that bitter. He speaks with truth. And there's some times where he's completely justified in, saying, you got screwed over, occasionally, but a lot of times he takes the high road, which I appreciate. Obviously he has his issues with Phil Soussan, which I think derailed his career with Ozzy for sure. Um, um, it's hard to say. Like I don't think about him a lot of times when I think of like my favorite guitarist, but he's probably up there, at least in like the top 30 or so. It's just, and it sounds weird when you say like top 30 because it feels like that's low or something. But there's a lot of guitarists out there to choose from too. So yeah, Jake is pretty awesome.
So who you got?
All right. I'm gonna talk about Dave Mustaine, your boy. Um, Um, Now Dave is obviously a little bit of a controversial figure, which I don't care. Like even like saying that like oh he's controversial. Like at this point I'm like I don't care who you think is controversial. Um, the thing is like Dave is a fucking amazing guitar player. And his style is very uniquely him. Like you can tell it's Dave. And the guys he picks to work with complement him so well. Obviously, he's worked with a lot of different guitar players over the years because he is a difficult man, and I've got my opinions on that. I think if every interview you ever do starts off with "Tell us about your time in Metallica," it's going to be real hard to let that go. That being said, like I honestly, if it were me and somebody started the interview that way, I'd just be like, the interview's over. Just, talk to me about what I do. But I'm not a famous guitarist either, so I guess I don't get to do that.
Well, whenever you in the future you get interviewed with about debating metal,
Oh, and
then
they ask me about my previous work, and I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
screw this. Yeah. So tell me about that time you made a billboard. I'll be like, I don't want to talk about that. So So I think what draws me to Megadeth is like the way that Dave writes music is so different from a lot of people. Like he's very creative. And for me it's like I can tell when it's him versus say Marty, or when it's him versus um Kiko, or whoever, whoever he plays with. Um, he is a lead guitarist who has kind of slotted himself into a rhythm guitar role, but plays leads and it sings, but he's not a good singer. But I still enjoy the whole package, right? Like I think I first heard of Megadeth, or I probably had heard them before, but I first like the name came into my lexicon like when Wayne's World 2, Garth is getting flirted with I think it's was it Kim Bassinger?
Yeah, I
Um,
think so. Yeah.
and she plays the guy or I mean the girl who's trying to seduce him, and she puts on like some like jazz music or something, and he goes, "You got any Megadeth?" Like so. I think that's like kind of when they like popped up into existence for me. And then I found Megadeth and listened to Peace Sells first, and that was the album that really stuck with me forever. But Rest in Peace, Dystopia, even a lot of the other stuff in between, I absolutely love. And the thing is, like, even Super Collider, which I think has some of the worst lyrics of any Megadeth album. Like, there's just some bad lyrics. Like, even Super Collider has some killer riffs on it. Like, Don't Turn Your Back. The way that song starts is so cool. But it's just like the cheesy lyrics. But yeah, I mean, it just I go back to Dave a lot when like when I'm just bored and thinking of something I want to what do I want to listen to? Like I'll throw on Holy Wars just because it's one of those songs that I never get tired of. So yeah, he's still one of my favorite guitarists, despite him being a bit of an asshole.
So, you know, you know how I feel about Dave. I like Dave. I just wish he would shut the fuck up sometimes. Um,
Uh huh.
and I bought his book. I'm staring at it. It's right above. It's in a stack of books I have right now. It's right above Bruce Dickinson and below Kiss. Not because it's alphabetical or anything like that. It just happens to be there. Um, so I have the book. Um, with Dave, I love his playing. He is very technically proficient. Um, he's a great songwriter, and he will tell you that, and he'll let you know that.
That's very true.
And he'll let you know how all the great songs of Metallica would not have a career without him. Um, it's just one of those things. Like I think the reason why he doesn't get up and walk away is because it gives him an opportunity to talk about himself some more when people ask him about Metallica. Um, but you can't take away the talent. You can't take away the career. I mean, he's had an outstanding career. His best work was back in the day, but then, all of a sudden, when you think he's going downhill, he comes out with an album like Dystopia. And it's like, holy shit,
I
this
mean,
is
I
a
put
good album.
Dystopia up there with his best, honestly.
To the point where they asked him the other recently, I don't want to say the other day, I saw the video the other day. They asked him recently, what do you consider your favorite Megadeth albums? And he came up with Rust in Peace and Dystopia. So
I
that
think that's
tells you,
fair.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah.
It tells you exactly how he feels about it. I mean, Dystopia's got some really, really good songs on it. So, um, yeah, like I said, I like Dave. I can understand why you like him as a guitar player. He's definitely is a great rhythm guitar player as well as a great lead guitarist. So
If I'm gonna pick my favorite combo though, um, Dave and Marty for sure.
oh, in Megadeth.
Yeah.
It kind of has to be Dave and Marty, and the reason being is because I don't think there's any collection of albums that are consecutive that are as good as the time between him and Marty. And on top of that, there aren't as many collections of albums. And I say collections, the Marty era started with Rust in Peace, and then there was Countdown, and then there was Euthanasia, and then there was it Cryptic Writings after
Yep.
that, and then Risk. So there's like 5 or 6 albums. It's a bunch. Whereas no other guitar player lasted more than 3, I think, or 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So that's it. Kind of has to be Marty, in that regards. Anyhow, I like Marty. I thought that whole thing was really good. I thought they had a great thing together, and I don't know. I guess just Dave's personality and stuff and the direction they wanted to go in just turned Marty off enough to move on. It happens.
Yep.
So, but speaking of Metallica, my next favorite guitar player is James Hetfield. And if you listen to Dave Mustaine recently talk about the beginnings when he joined the band and he was the only guitar player, it makes you think that, man, James must have become this really, really good guitar player by watching Dave for those 16 months. So, but all kidding aside, James Hetfield is probably, I'm going to put it this way, and it's going to sound weird. When all is said and done, and James is at the end of his career, very similar to how Tony Iommi is at the end of his career. I think for the metal world that grew up in a different time period that did not bow down to Black Sabbath, I think James is revered in the same light. And that may sound like a lot. That may sound like I'm blowing smoke up James's ass, but when you think about every single person that talks about metal and their gateway, like you like to use that phrase, their gateway to more extreme metal was Metallica. Okay, the bottom line is that the driving force behind the music of Metallica is James Hetfield.
Absolutely.
He's written just about every riff in the band, save for a few that came in Saint Anger, save for a few of Kirk Hammett's riffs that have been used over the years. Enter Sandman is a good example. And obviously James has written 99.9% of the lyrics, save for a few on Saint Anger. Again, just the incredible songwriting and the incredible. Now, let's get past the songwriting, the ability to play the songs that he does is outstanding. I mean, probably the most famous right hand in metal from a lot of people's perspective. Scott Ian says the same thing, kind of thing. It's even what was it the other day of reading something Gary Holt was talking about James and how in James's older age now he quote unquote cheats, and the cheating is this: he doesn't downstroke everything. Okay. If you want ease and proficiency to be able to play the same stuff, you're going to have to upstroke. That's just the way it is. He's older. I mean, he's 63 years old now, something like that. So, or 62. And, you don't play. Damn, they play pretty freaking fast, but you don't play the way you used to when you were, 25 years old. So they have to do a little bit of upstrokes as opposed to all downstrokes on some of the heavy riffs. That's James's cheating. I've heard Alex Skolnick, or I've read it in an interview where he went to a Metallica show and he paid attention to James and he watched James the whole time. And he said, I don't think I've seen a guitar player ever have a perfect show until I watched James. He just did nothing wrong. And it's one of those things, and that's not to say he does nothing wrong. I mean, Paul Stanley said the same thing about Gene Simmons. He says he's never heard Gene hit a bad note. Doubtful that's true, but considering that Paul jumps all over the stage, he probably missed a couple of notes that he himself missed too, because Paul has missed plenty of notes over the years.
No.
Oh yeah. But anyway, James Hetfield, just one of my favorite guitar players out there. Is just it goes up there with Metallica being my favorite band.
Really?
Yeah, dude, it's amazing, isn't it?
First I'm hearing of this. Now James is the he is Metallica to me, at least. I think, and I've said this before, like without James, there is no Metallica. I think in some regard you can replace just about everybody else. You sure argue that you can't replace Lars because obviously he arranges things, right? But like James is the creative genius behind that band. And if you're going to define a band by one of the members, it's James. So, gateway to metal, sure. Because like we went to that concert not too long ago, saw a really diverse crowd there. Not just guys in black shirts, but everything. So it was awesome to see it, like such a huge amount of people. I always like going to small shows more, but like seeing something that big is pretty astonishing. And I would say you're not wrong when saying like James would be as revered as some of the other greats in metal. So, definitely a good pick. My last guy that I'm going to discuss today is Alexi Laiho. I first heard him on Something Wild, which was the first Children of Bodom album back in 1998. I became a diehard fan, I would say in 99, 2000. That was when I was really like first getting into a lot of that kind of stuff and, had my own allowance and, chore money to buy albums and stuff like that. I bought Something Wild. I bought it again when they had the digital deluxe version that had a 240p Dead Night Warrior extra video on it. Just because I wanted more of that stuff. I had all of the studio albums. I had Relentless, Reckless Forever, Tokyo War Hearts, and the Chaos Ridden Years. Like every live. I said that very weird. So I had all the studio albums through Relentless, Reckless Forever. As I realized it made it sound like that was just one of the live albums. It's not. So that was all the physical copies that I had. And when I'm saying had, I've mentioned this before on a few episodes. Like at one point, I had no money. I was pretty much almost broke, and I had to sell all my CDs. So yeah, that's looking back, it's such a shame. Like I would love to have all those again, but I don't. So I was just one of those guys. Like I bought extra versions of CDs with digital extras because like it would have behind the scenes videos of them, like the band playing around behind, like in the recording process and things like that. I was such a fan of Alexi's style. Like um he brought in like neoclassical elements, which other people had done before, obviously like Ingve and stuff like that, but brought his own style. Like he was the songwriter of the band. He you know was the singer of the band. Like, and to see somebody sing in that style, be all over the stage, play what he played, with the technical prowess that he played. Like I was lucky enough to see them as a headliner and as a support act for Megadeth. And I, headlining act, I was up front, got to see like extremely close and just enjoyed the hell out of that show. It was so impressive. They were like an hour late for the show, and people are starting to get antsy, and they're chanting for the band and everything like that. You know, it's reaching the point where people are getting mad, and then as soon as they were on the stage, all of that anger went away because it was that good. um Alexi's unique style, like in the early years, you know bringing that kind of neoclassical element with his singing style and the orchestrals and things like that, that's what really drew me in. The only time that I kind of stumbled as a fan in the entirety of Children of Bottom was I Worship Chaos. I think that was their low point as songwriting. But for the most part, I never really wavered. Like even till the very end, I was a fan. It's a absolute shame he's passed away now, because we'll never get to really hear what was coming afterwards. But that first Bottom After Midnight, the singles that they released was really cool. So, such a shame because I was looking forward to that stuff. I kind of had this feeling like it was going to happen, like his health seemed to be declining from everything that you could see. Like he was getting really skinny, and obviously Children of Bottom cut ties with Alexi because of drinking and stuff like that, and that's eventually what led to his death. But I was just such a fan for such a long time. It's going to be one of those bands that I listen to. I'm going to be if I live this long, but like 70 years old, sitting there listening to, you know, Kissing the Shadows and stuff like that. Just thinking about being an old man listening to metal just kind of cracks me up sometimes. But yeah, I mean, he had huge influences with bands I love too. Like his biggest influences were Judas Priest, Wasp, Halloween, and Manowar. And those are, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Manowar, but I still like them. And Halloween, I've talked about them a few times, but like Wasp and Judas Priest are two of my favorite bands too. So yeah, it would make sense.
You're the one who introduced me to Alexi and to Children of Bottom, and I like them. I don't listen to them very often because it's one of those things where I still absorbing the vocal style of all those uh, melodic death metal bands. But what I heard and what we talked about on the episode when we were comparing a couple albums, it's fantastic. I mean, his guitar playing is fantastic. I saw him in concert when they opened up for, I think it was Anthrax or
Megadeth. You and I
Megadeth.
went to the same show, but we
Yeah,
didn't
that's
know
right.
each
I
other.
always think of it as Anthrax because it was in the same venue when I saw Anthrax and Megadeth.
Yeah.
It was so um I saw them in concert and they impressed me then, and they were pretty good. I mean, they weren't given the best stage effects, because they're an opening act, but they
That was the show I bruised my rib on because I was up on the rail, and as soon as Megadeth started, I got just like slammed into the rail from behind.
Oh, you know what? I remember one of my early first shows. I went to see Anthrax at a club in Miami. It was the second show I went to see in Miami. Same place, Cameo Theater, and I was up against the rail to see Ace Frehley the first time. That the first show I went to at the Cameo,
Mhm.
and that was great. And then so I did the same thing again. So there's uh, Celtic Frost, Exodus opening up for Anthrax on the Among the Living tour, and I'm way up at the front. And then all of a sudden, Anthrax starts, and I was nowhere near the front. I think I got lifted like 20 rows back because just the crowd and the spinning like that. I think it was just air that lifted me up there because that mosh pit just got so out of hand real fast that I ended up moving back towards the soundboard just to be able to relatively keep myself safe because that was not, I'm all of 18 years old and I had never done any moshing or anything like that. So I was like, woo, this is crazy. So, but anyhow, children and Lexi, you were saying something about, you were really excited to see what was going to come, with Bodom After Midnight. However, had Alexi not been the alcoholic and the drug, into all that stuff and had
Mhm.
stayed healthy, Children of Bodom would probably still be together, because it was because of his addiction problems and because of his alcoholism that they just walked away from him.
Yep.
So they probably still would have been together, and Bodom After Midnight wouldn't necessarily exist. But one thing, leads to another, and that's, it's unfortunate. When I heard he passed away, I was like, damn, that's interesting, messed up,
It's a
really.
shame.
Yes, it is. All right, so the last thing I'm going to talk about, and then you can join in with me because I know you're going to know about this guitar player, and I know you're going to have plenty to say. My last guitar player for the evening is going to be Randy Rhoads, by far, hands down, my favorite guitar player. We have plenty of honorable mentions that we could name and go on for about an hour just naming names. But Randy Rhoads is by far had to be named tonight as my favorite guitar player because that's what he is. And I don't know what it is about Randy or what it is about him that I get attracted to, but I love listening to those first two Ozzy albums that have him on it because I'm listening to someone that at the time, we're talking 1980 and 1981, where the recording techniques that musicians in that metal was adopting did not include what Randy could do.
Mhm.
Um, Eddie Van Halen, as famous as he was, didn't do what Randy did until a few years later, and that is, and I don't even think he ever did that because, you know, Eddie never played with distortion, so there's that part of it, where Randy would go in and record one solo or one of his guitar tracks, put it that way, and then go in there again with a different tone, record the same guitar track, note for note, and you couldn't tell.
Mhm.
And that's just amazing. Whereas, you know, unless Eddie, I mean, I'm sure Eddie could do it, but Eddie never changed his tone. It was always just him into his amp, and he didn't have a distortion pedal, so I'm sure there's some gain on the amp and stuff like that. But you're talking about, he made that guitar sound that way. So Randy's tone completely different, and he played with those two different tones and on those Ozzy albums, and you could hear it. You put it on the headphones, and you can hear one over, and the other in each of your ears, and that's amazing. He did it with his guitar solos, and then he would do it again. Let's track it again. Let's do a different tone. I mean, Max Norman was just like freaked out by how good it was, and there's just something about that. And then when he goes into this, and we've talked about it with Diary of a Madman, the album just being so different from Blizzard. And to me, I picked Diary over Blizzard just recently because it was so much more mature. And then listening to the song Diary of a Madman, like I said before, it is hauntingly beautiful. And that's just the way I feel about it. And I mean, like I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Jakey Lee, the Mr. Crowley solo, he, right at the 209 mark, he goes into that first solo, and it's just this big shred, and he's just going to town, and then he comes out, they go back into the verse, whatever it may be, and then second solo starts somewhere around the 320 mark, and it's just the melody, just a very not quiet. I don't want to say a quiet part, but it's more controlled. And then right around 354, he goes for it and just shreds it up, and similar, where, and I don't know, he plays this, the song goes into this quiet part right around the 225 mark. And it's like, it's a very different style of song, especially for your first song being introduced to the world. I Don't Know is a great song, my favorite Ozzy song, but the way the song is written, it's not verse, chorus, solo, chorus and out. It's not like that. It's that slow part. It's really cool. And then it builds, and it goes that slow part, that then the guitar solo starts around the 328 mark, and it's just a different kind of song. And we all know Crazy Train. There's nothing to talk about with that. I mean, just the amazing work that's on Crazy Train. Randy Rhoads, by far my favorite guitar player. If anyone's ever out there and gets a chance to download or to pick up a copy of Quiet Riot, the Randy Rhoads years, you'll hear a lot of the stuff that he played on Ozzy is on that CD. It's on that album. Some of his guitar solos, some of his riffs, you're going to hear it all over that album. And it's pretty interesting to see where that stuff came from.
Randy was, I mean, obviously too short of a career to really see where he could have gone, which is just, man, another shame. But what he did leave the world was just magic, right? Like he, in 2 albums, really kind of like cemented his career, which is amazing to say. The guy, was so knowledgeable at guitar and always wanted to learn more, wanted to go back to school and learn more. Who knows what he could have been doing now? Like, it may not be metal, and maybe, writing music for movies or something. You never know where he could have gone. He wanted to master classical guitar, as well as, play what he was already playing. And the guy had limitless potential, and it's just, it sucks that he never got to, really, do more, I guess, that's just simply it. That being said, like, yeah, I mean, I go back and listen to Blizzard of Oz every once in a while, just because, like, it's such a solid album. I don't like Diary of a Madman as much as you do, but it's still an amazing album. Um, but what could have been? I think that's just really it. Like, just what could have been with him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's one of those things where, you got 2 albums and that was it. and that was his contribution to the world
Yeah.
in regards to that. I mean, you can hear his stuff on the first Quiet Riot album that came out in Japan, and the second Quiet Riot album that came out in Japan, which was Quiet Riot and Quiet Riot 2. But it's nothing compared to what you hear on the Ozzy records. It's nothing. And if you ever get a chance, it's it's that I think Ozzy has it on his YouTube channel now to watch that performance. I believe it's from Rochester, New York, where they're in the studio, and Ozzy's got his tasseled shirt on, and it's just a small little studio. Rudy Sarzo's on bass, Tommy Aldridge's on drums. And the playing, you just get to see Randy right in your face in that, and seeing how he plays guitar. It's incredible footage. So that's the footage that Jack Black mocked on the Back to the Beginning. And I say mock, he playfully, had the sons of some famous musicians, Scott Ian's son, as well as Tom Morello's son, playing guitar and bass on there. And they did Mr. Crowley. They did a version of Mr. Crowley, and it was just a copy of the video. It's so cool. So cool. All right. Well, my apologies once again, but there's no big four on this episode. But in the meantime, don't forget to click like or subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and leave a comment while you're at it.
And don't forget, you can interact with us on Facebook, Instagram, and on X, or send us an email to debatingmetal@gmail.com. YouTube viewers, click subscribe and ring the bell to be notified when we post a new show. And remember, tune in to the next episode where we'll spark up another exciting metal debate. On behalf of Kenneth and myself, stay safe and always turn it up to 11.
See ya.